Have you ever noticed how joy can sometimes feel like a butterfly, landing gently on your shoulder, only to fly away the moment you try to hold it? Most people think joy is something we stumble upon, an accident of circumstance, a reward when everything in life aligns just right. But the Buddhist teachings remind us of a profound truth. Joy is not a fleeting visitor. It is a state we can nurture, cultivate, and embody. No matter the storms outside, when we first come to this realization, it is both liberating and unsettling. Liberating, because it means we are not helpless. Unsettling, because it asks us to rethink much of what we have been taught about happiness. From childhood, society whispers in our ears, get the right job, earn enough money, marry the right person, and joy will be yours. Yet how many people reach these milestones only to feel an emptiness gnawing at their hearts? That emptiness is the happiness trap. It is the illusion that chasing pleasures, possessions, or recognition will give us lasting fulfillment. The Buddha, with boundless compassion, pointed out this truth more than 2,500 years ago, and yet here we are, still running in circles, seeking permanence in things destined to change. But here's the secret. Unshakable joy is not about denying life's pleasures, nor is it about escaping into a cave to meditate for decades. It is about learning to see clearly, to live with awareness, to embrace compassion, and to release the clinging that binds us. In other words, it is about practicing Buddha wisdom in the messy, ordinary fabric of daily life. Number 1, the power of now, mindfulness as a daily compass. Imagine this. You're washing dishes after dinner. The warm water runs over your hands, the faint scent of soap rises, and the clinking of plates fills the kitchen. For most of us, the mind is not there. It is racing ahead to tomorrow's meetings, or replaying an argument from earlier in the day. Yet in this ordinary moment lies the seed of freedom. When you bring your attention fully to the act of washing dishes, suddenly the chore becomes meditation. The present moment reveals itself in its simplicity and peace. This is the essence of mindfulness, not a lofty escape, but a daily compass guiding us back to now. The Buddha taught that the present moment is the only true refuge. The past is memory, the future is imagination, but the present is alive. And when we anchor ourselves here, even small actions become gateways to peace. Many think mindfulness is only about sitting cross-legged in silence, but true mindful awareness is woven into the fabric of life. Walking to the bus stop, listening to your child's laughter, even breathing in the smell of coffee in the morning. When we practice like this, we begin to notice our triggers. The irritation when someone cuts us off in traffic, the tension in our shoulders during work, the way our voice sharpens with impatience. Instead of reacting blindly, mindfulness creates a pause. In that pause lies freedom, the chance to choose a different path, to respond with clarity instead of habit. I recall a story of a young monk who was sweeping leaves in the monastery courtyard. He grew frustrated as the wind kept blowing more leaves onto the ground. An elder monk walked by and smiled gently, saying, "Why not sweep with the wind instead of against it?" The young monk suddenly understood. The point was not to finish the task perfectly, but to be present in it. Life too is like this. Leaves will always fall. The question is, can we meet them with presence? Number 2, cultivating compassion, the heart of joy. If mindfulness is the compass, compassion is the heart. Without compassion, mindfulness can become cold observation. With compassion, it becomes warm, alive, and transformative. Think for a moment. How often do you criticize yourself? The harsh inner voice that says, "I'm not good enough. I failed again. I'll never change." This constant self-criticism is like carrying a heavy stone in your pocket everywhere you go. But Buddhist teachings remind us that before we can extend kindness outward, we must learn to soften inward. This is the practice of metta, or loving kindness. Start small. Place your hand on your heart and whisper silently, "May I be well. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering." At first, it may feel awkward or even fake, but slowly something shifts. That inner stone begins to lighten. From this foundation of self-kindness, compassion naturally ripples outward. Consider the difficult people in your life. Perhaps a colleague who constantly undermines you, or a family member whose words sting like daggers. The instinct is to build walls to protect ourselves with anger. Yet the Buddha's wisdom suggests another way. See their suffering. No one who is deeply at peace lashes out with cruelty. When you look beyond their behavior and glimpse their pain, compassion arises, not as pity, but as understanding. And understanding dissolves the poison of resentment. I remember the story of Angulimala, a feared bandit who killed many people. When he met the Buddha, instead of reacting with fear or hatred, the Buddha met him with calm compassion. That single encounter transformed Angulimala's life, leading him to abandon violence and become a monk. If even the darkest heart can be softened by compassion, imagine what is possible in our everyday interactions. And here's the beautiful paradox. When we give compassion, we also receive joy. Acts of kindness, whether offering a smile to a stranger or lending a listening ear, light up the same parts of the brain associated with happiness. Altruism is not self-sacrifice. It is self-nourishment. In giving, we discover a deeper well of joy than any amount of taking could ever provide. Number 3, embracing impermanence and non-attachment. Let's face a truth that often frightens us. Everything changes. The only constant in life is impermanence. Seasons shift, bodies age, relationships evolve, fortunes rise and fall. Yet our minds resist this truth with all their might. We cling to youth, to success, to people, to identities, as if holding tightly enough could freeze them in place. But clinging only amplifies suffering. The Buddha used the metaphor of a lute string. If pulled too tight, it snaps. If too loose, it cannot play. Joy lies in the middle path, engaging fully with life while holding lightly. Non-attachment does not mean indifference. It means loving deeply without trying to possess, appreciating beauty without needing it to last forever, working diligently without being enslaved by outcomes. Think of a flower. You admire its bloom, inhale its fragrance, but you do not cry when its petals fall. You understood from the start that it was destined to change. Can we treat our experiences the same way? The laughter of a friend, the success of a project, even the pain of a loss, all are petals in the garden of impermanence. There is a story of a Zen master who was asked, "What is the most important teaching?" He lifted a cup of tea and said, "This too shall pass." In those 4 words lies a universe of peace. For when we truly accept impermanence, fear loosens its grip. We stop demanding that life meet our expectations and instead flow with its rhythm. And in that flow, unshakable joy emerges, not because life is perfect, but because we are free. Number 4, integrating wisdom for a joyful life. At this point, you may be wondering, how do I weave all these threads together, mindfulness, compassion, impermanence, into the tapestry of my own life? The answer is both simple and profound. Start where you are. Unshakable joy is not built overnight, nor through dramatic transformations. It is cultivated in small, consistent steps. 5 mindful breaths in the morning. Choosing kindness instead of criticism in one conversation. Pausing to appreciate the changing sky at dusk. These tiny acts are seeds, and with patience, they blossom into resilience, peace, and joy. The beauty of Buddhist wisdom is its flexibility. There is no one-size-fits-all formula. Some may find meditation their anchor. Others may find service, chanting, or mindful walking. What matters is sincerity and consistency. As the Buddha said, "Drop by drop, the water jar is filled." Likewise, drop by drop, joy takes root in our lives. I often think of the story of a farmer tending his crops. He cannot pull the plants to make them grow faster. His task is simply to water, weed, and protect them. Growth happens in its own time. Our inner cultivation is the same. The task is not to force joy, but to create the conditions where joy naturally arises. So, let me extend an invitation. Begin today. Not tomorrow, not when life is less busy, but now. Take one small step to bring Buddha wisdom into your daily rhythm. Perhaps it is placing your phone aside for a few minutes to savor a meal in silence. Perhaps it is writing a note of gratitude. Perhaps it is forgiving yourself for something long past. Whatever it is, let it be real, let it be kind, let it be now. Closing reflection, unshakable joy is not a myth, nor is it reserved for saints and sages. It is the birthright of every human heart. The Buddhist teachings are not abstract philosophies, but practical guides to living a peaceful life amidst chaos. By practicing mindfulness, cultivating compassion, and embracing impermanence, we gradually untangle ourselves from the happiness trap and discover a joy that does not depend on conditions. And remember, joy does not mean the absence of sorrow. Even the Buddha wept when beloved disciples passed away, but his tears flowed in a vast ocean of peace. That is unshakable joy, not denial of pain, but the capacity to hold pain without drowning in it. So, as you finish this reflection, take a deep breath. Feel your chest rise and fall. Whisper softly to yourself, "Joy is within me. Joy is my practice. Joy is my home." And let that truth accompany you into the next moment, and the next, until it becomes the very rhythm of your life. Because the world does not need more people chasing fleeting pleasures. The world needs more hearts radiating the steady, luminous joy of awakened living. And you, right now, have the power to be one of them.